Yo boys, it's your boy, Skinny Penis, back at it again with another replay, fresh from the fucking dumpster that was World of Warships. And we actually have a battleship replay that is not incomparable. Ooh, yes, um, may seem crazy, but yeah, finally we have a battleship here, and it's, in my opinion, the most balanced battleship in the entire game, being Montana, or at least in high tier. I don't really care about the low tier BBs, so yeah, Montana being probably the most well balanced BB on tier 10, given that you can overmatch if you aim well, but you don't dumbfuck overmatch everything point and click. And also the heal, since it got now a heal buff, and the Citadel was lowered, I think like 4 or 5 years ago. The ship actually has a lot of sustain and a lot of tanking capabilities too. So yeah, it also is in certain situations better against some cruisers than other BBs, like the heavy armored cruisers like Moskva, Petro, Napoli are easier to kill with a Monty most likely, given you shoot AP, because your shell count, the amount of shells you shit out is just higher than on other BBs, while keeping decent accuracy, so you're generally going to hit more shells, deal more damage. But the moment it comes to 30mm cruisers, you are definitely in a more balanced position where you need to position yourself well, aim well, and then you can punish them still, but you can't just go for a funny point and click adventure on them, which should be the case, honestly, in this game for BBs. Sadly, it isn't anymore. 80% of the battleships just get the all overmatching funny guns. Okay, so let's dive into the game. It is a carrier game with only one destroyer. So carrier being shit, yeah, but since it's only one Torp DD, it's okay-ish. We might run into the issue though that since the DD is divisioned with an Edgar and it's a division, the division spawn on this map is 7, 8, 9 lines, like this flank, so they could be here, but 50-50 that it's the other ship. That's the other division here, and we're actually not playing against the Shema. Given that the Marlboro is now spotted, we can say A division is here, so Shimmer is going to be on the other side. And as you can see, Edgar is spotted on the other side. So yeah, there you go. We have a free flank. We can do whatever the fuck we want now with our Monty, because what we have to play into is either cruisers or battleships. And the only thing we probably have to care about is if the carrier is going to start focusing us. Regarding the positioning here, you play, or I play Monty with Brisk. Generally in randoms probably the most advisable skill. It's really strong. You could maybe play Monty in a very passive setup where you drop Brisk so you have more sustain maybe. Then again, if you're base camping without Brisk, why would you need more tanking capability in any case, because you're not going to die there in most scenarios. So as you can see, brisking fast into the flank here in the beginning, trying to maybe get nice spotting through my Shimmer or carrier and catching someone broad, which essentially happened perfectly here. We got the Marlboro with a very fat and juicy salvo. I think it was a quad Sid. Very nice hit there. And also the Sejong on the rock has big troubles now, because I'm so deep in the flank that he can essentially, as long as he's spotted, which he will always be, because Evoside and the Des Moines went to the rock with radar and hydro. So as you can see here, the guy's always spotted, and Montana with the spotter plane and the, let's say, lazy shells has an easy time lobbing these rocks, which I did here, and he dies. Obviously that's a misplay because he could have reversed and be safe, but some people generally don't expect Montana to be able to lob. I personally like to keep the spotter plane for lobbing capabilities, like if someone is spotted, like for example now here the Stalin, you get a bird's eye view, you have an easier time hitting. It's not about the range extension. Like since you play American BBs like Monty that are super heavy main gun focused, not secondary at all, I generally don't play it with secondary mod or turret traverse mod, so I just take the range mod for a bit better dispersion. So it's not because of the range, it's essentially just because of the bird's eye view and easy lobbing. So, regarding the position, you can see I'm literally hugging the border. Lots of people already meme on it, and I think it is a meme. The central BB positioning is absolute garbage, crap. There is something to it, because you have to see the entire picture of a map. You can only position yourself central as a BB if your team plays both flanks, or at least one flank, so you can aim towards that flank. So that also means there is a necessity for other battleships to go into the flank, and that is also mandatory. It's the same thing as DDs going into the flank. If your DD runs into a cap and always tries to contest, but the enemy DD is perma-spotting and torping on the flank, you're most likely going to lose the flank and therefore afterwards the cap. So it's just fucking worthless if you're just one DD on a flank to go for the cap the entire time. On top of that, especially if the cap is like perma-blockable. Like on this cap, for example, our shimmer being in it, theoretically, like Evo is now, behind the rock, would make 0 sense. He loses the possibility of torping from the flank, and he's not spotting anything, while the enemy is probably just shoving a heavy ship into it and blocking him. So his entire gameplay, what he could do is negated, and he's not bringing any value to the team. The same for the BBs. If every battleship runs stupidly into the fucking middle of the map for the central BB positioning, there is not gonna be any fucking crossfire, because there has to be a battleship on the flank or towards the flank to ensure that crossfire, or at least some very heavy cruiser. Then again, the cruisers probably can't maintain the crossfire as well as like a full HP battleship. So that essentially means I'm more of the kind of guy who brisks into flanks with the battleship. It's even better if you have a speed boosting fast BB, like Vincent, Incom, Borg, Georgia, stuff like that is super broken with Brisk now. You can just speed boost so early into the flank that essentially you beat every cruiser or BB to the spot. So you're gonna have priority position, given that there's still people towards the center of your team on the map. There's going to be very great opportunities to get a insanely juicy first salvo in, and afterwards you can probably pick up lots of, let's say, broadsides or angled up ships, because the enemies just don't really know how to maneuver in these situations, since they most likely won't even be able to get into position because they have to turn out too early, because you're just faster into the position, and you're essentially blocking a straight path. Then afterwards, we're now here in the flank. We killed 2 ships, our Shimmer inted, and Evo side is still centered, which is smart because he's like a Des Moines. He can bring the spotting, hydro and stuff, and he can play on the rocks, which makes him very safe. But for him to be able to play that position in the next minutes, I have to keep pushing this side. I'm also walking the dog, that is the Satsuma behind me. He's a bit stoop. He's way too slow behind me. He could essentially just perma W like I do, because you already know the Shimmer is on the other side. He's also spotted in our spawn. We knew it from the get-go. The carrier is currently neglecting us, which leads me to believe that he also moved over to the other side, which he didn't. You will see soon. But I just keep pushing the asses of the 2 battleships, because otherwise Evo can not play the middle. If the Hanover and the Monty are allowed to play towards 8, 9, 10 lines still, like kite into the border there, where I am now essentially, Evo side is pushing. The moment he moves forward, he's in tremendous crossfires. Like, there's people in the middle, there's people in front of him, and there would be people on the flank. So he couldn't play the game. He would have to hide for the entire duration. Also, on Shattered especially, you can't really like play middle as a battleship, unless you're maybe like a German BB or Schlieffen. That makes a lot of sense, but you can't really play it because it's really risky that you get fucked in the middle, since it's really hard to have support from your team. So going very deep into the flank is generally more advisable, because as you can see here, you fuck the positions the enemy took in the middle. Like the Stalin is now in big trouble because I'm just in their spawn. Given that, what you can see here is you can play Montana very AP focused, as we did here, because there were still lots of possibilities for broadsides. But now that I'm just hunting 2 perma-running battleships, I'm going to switch to HE more and more, which is a pretty good strength of Montana. It doesn't only have very good AP. You can definitely just switch to HE and spam someone down. It's not as effective as a Conqueror Thunder or Vincent, not as, but it's probably the battleship right after those in terms of HE spam capabilities. You have decent dispersion, high shell count, so yeah, you tend to get a lot of fires over time. And the thing is also, battleship guns essentially pen every deck, because their HE caliber is just so high. It doesn't even matter if you have British pen or American pen. It really doesn't matter. You pen the 50 of the Hanover, you pen the 38 of the Montana. The way the map is now played, Shattered is very common for that, is our team was so stupid that they kited straight into base, letting 1-2 line essentially open or leaving it open so the enemy could push through instead of just kiting 1-2-3 line. I mean, if they're unwilling to take a fight because they're base camping bitches, then at least kite on the 1-2-3 line so you get like a really good angle. You can kite them out. You don't leave the map open for them to just do whatever. But yeah, as you can see here, the map is turning upside down. It's going to be a play from 1 to 10 line, not from A to J line. So I essentially keep pushing here. Now I also caught the Immelmann and Heartlight, so obviously we try to finish the Immelmann here. We keep hunting the Monty and the Hanover so that Evo has now the opportunity to maybe play the 5-6 line into the middle without any battleship on essentially the entire half of the map from 6 line to 10 line where I am now. So there's no way they could shoot him from behind or on his broadside. That's like the goal here, and we're also achieving this. Here obviously you have the problem that I didn't expect the carrier to be there, so I also didn't get the very nice juicy flat broadside shot. I didn't even realize it when he was spotted, so I still shot HE on the Monty. We still kill him. Thing now here is obviously the carrier, the moment he focuses you, you drop a lot of HP in such a fat battleship. You're going to get flooded, you're going to get burned a lot. So yeah, even if I wanted to keep pushing here, I have to slow down now because of the carrier. Thankfully, he can't start another squadron because we killed him off fast enough. But as you can see, I'm suffering greatly, and I need time to make use of my incredible heals. Because all the flooding and fire damage I just took isn't that big of an issue, because the Monty heal is improved. It's like what Iowa always had as a heal. Monty got like 3 years ago, or 2 years ago, so it finally got buffed, which is very nice. We can also talk about the spec later on, because you could theoretically run the heal reduction skill as a 3-pointer. That's a very, very, very strong skill on Monty, especially if you're not planning on hyper pushing every single game. That skill is essentially keeping you alive forever in base, because every single potential damage you get gets you seconds of the heal, and the heal is balanced in the way that it has normal cooldown. It's not like an Ohio cooldown, but therefore it heals more. So yeah, I need some time here. I'm angled towards the BBs anyway, but they just kept running. That's like some normal reaction from most BB or World of Warships players at this point. If you pressure them in a very controlled manner, like it was controlled in the sense that I knew there is not going to be any crossfire on me because there's no battleship in the middle. There's not going to be any torpedoes, and the carrier seemed to ignore me until obviously the point where I hard lit him and we fucked him. So yeah, there was definitely a very free push for me, and even if I take damage because both BBs shoot me, it's still worth it. Because as you can see, our ships in the middle can now play the middle, and yeah, I'm just going to wait a certain amount of time now, or until a certain amount of distance is created between me and those BBs, because they're still like running. I mean, the Hanover is now turning into the middle, giving broadside. That's pretty good. But as you can see, I'm turning out now, because there's no point in continuing now, because if I would cross the 5-6 line, I might run into the issue that like GK Patrie in the middle or Saint Louis Edgar could potentially farm me. Here I'm risking a bit of a... The broadside of the Hanover was just too juicy to pass on, so I risked the back turret salvo from the Monty. He doesn't do any damage. Could have gone pretty horrible too. But here you can also see the Shimmer was allowed to go through our entire base, because our team just really wanted to get fucked on the other side. They let themselves in crouch for free, and what I did on 8, 9, 10 line, the enemy did on 1, 2, 3 line, so everyone died there. That was in a more centered position. Yeah, which goes to show there's a lot you can do with positioning play for the team. Just being in a general area, especially as a BB, that's like the highest impact you get out of these ships is your positioning, because you're blocking a lot of ships, you're creating a lot of crossfire, potential crossfire, so people can't move anymore, which gives a lot of map control, meaning there's more time for your team to either farm, or some teammates are not in any danger of dying because of you. Here you can see again switching to HE. I expect a turn here, that's why I switched to AP. He doesn't do it. Theoretically, you could also keep shooting AP on the superstructure of the Hanover. You will most likely get around 10k consistently. That's not too unlikely for Monty to do. That's also why I think that the overmatch argument is kind of shit. Overmatch is kind of destroying, my opinion, said it multiple times, the gameplay of World of Warships a bit. It's less tactical, it's less about positioning, it's more stupid point and click stuff or demented DPM. Um, but these ships like Monty that don't have overmatch somehow still, or like Bourgogne somehow still manage to 10 to 15k angle targets a lot. It's just because the way the armor schemes or the armor and AP shell interaction is so fucked in World of Warships or so stupid that you most likely fuse tons of shells anyway. Especially the US NBB shells are super. I mean, here I'm aiming bad, by the way. Like, I'm literally shooting his nose. That's why he ricochets. But if these shells all land in his superstructure, that's like a 15k hit, even though he's perfectly angled. It's also a reason why the German BBs aren't as tanky as they seem, because ships like Monty just dumpster you close up sometimes for 25, 30k through superstructure while you're perfectly angled. People are not even shooting the armored parts of the ship because they don't have to. Big problems, but Wargaming rather HD reworks maps instead of fixing major gameplay issues, in my opinion. In any case, that guy shoots HE. It's pretty stupid. I think with AP he would overall do more damage. Then again, he also shouldn't re-push into us. As you could see, allowing our carrier and the rest of my team to play the middle allowed them to win the middle pretty handsomely. Most likely also because Evo in the Des Moines was able to nose trade very effectively from the rock because his back was covered. Showing again that the position gameplay of pushing a flank with a battleship and keep pushing it is better than just saying, okay, we won the flank, let's go central BB position. It's just not worth it. As a BB in the beginning, let's say we have 5 battleships, it's probably best if 2 BBs go on each flank and 1 BB can go into the middle. Depending on the map, it's maybe like a 1-2-2, maybe it's a 1-1-3 split if you want to push, like something like that. There has to be a battleship essentially on most parts of the map so that you make the enemy pretty immovable. They can't move from rocks, they can't move towards rocks. So yeah, and that's also a reason why the brisk skill is so strong, because it just gives you, let's say, these half a minute to a minute. Like, let's say the enemy battleship is also a sleeper and stays in spawn. You get into the flank sometimes like a minute or 2 minutes before the enemy BB or ships do, and that's just incredible power through positioning. Like, you don't even need to do damage sometimes. Yeah, as you can see here, by the way, Evo side now, because I gave it up because the Hanover pressured me, and there's also an unknown GK. Like, we don't know if the GK pushes around with the Hanover or if the GK turned back into middle. I had to give ground because I only have 1 heal left. I'm already half HP. Maybe the damage I took from the carrier was exactly why I had to run there, but I don't want to be stuck in secondary ranges, so I had to give ground. The Monty pushes back and gets the ass of Evo and essentially kills him. So yeah, there's a problem. In this situation, Hanover and GK are now in middle spotted. Our Satsuma that kept full HP the entire time is now running into middle. Essentially, it's all on him now. He has to at least trade one of the ships, most likely the GK, Ram or whatever, because I can probably kill the Hanover afterwards. And I have to turn back to, we are down on points, and as I said, even if the Hanover rams, the Satsuma rams, the Hanover is probably going to block cap. So I need a repush. I can't angle against both ships if the Hanover decides to run into the middle after the GK, but as it seems our Satsuma is just going to ram, and you can probably expect that he gets it off because the Monty is not going to nuke him from that distance a lot. Like, maybe he gets 2 sits, but the Hanover is just the Satsuma is just too healthy. So the Satsuma rams the GK here, which is really good. So I could kill the Hanover now. I have to pre-turn my turrets to that. Reason for this being, I have to kill him to get the points in the first place, but also that B isn't blocked for the last minute, because a kill gives you like 100-point swing, and we're about 100 points in difference. So even if I kill him, but B kind of flips or whatever, or isn't blocked, there may be like slight point issues. I think if I kill a BB here, we would probably win instantly, but it's also that you have to get him out of the B cap. Here the problem is, I rather chance my turn against the Hanover that is turning into me, so he doesn't have the back turrets. So I had to chance, like, he can shoot me with front turrets, but it's way less likely that he one-shots me 40k with the front turrets than the Monty with all guns from my back. Like, if I would have turned into the Hanover, the Monty may have gotten a flat broadside shot on me. Here I also overturned a slight bit, but he doesn't do the damage. But it's way less likely that the Monty one-shots me there if he gets a broadside shot. So yeah, I went flat broad to the Hanover. The one salvo I can probably eat. I already pre-healed here, so in case I take massive damage, the heal is already ticking. Game runs out, and we barely win it with a few points discrepancy. The end screens, there you go. We tanked a lot. We had like Dreadnought, Fireproof, we get all the other goodie achievements, High Caliber, Confed. Confed procced very late, even though I had Halsey on it, which is sad, because Halsey essentially gives you 20% reload for free, and having it a bit earlier may have helped a lot there, especially if you get the 20% Halsey. You obviously become a disgusting HE spammer with a bit of AR. Shot down a few planes, 10 citadels. That's mostly in the beginning of the match when I deleted the Marlboro and the Marlboro, the Stalin, and the Sejong. Yeah, so it's a lot of damage. 375 non-arms race game. It's pretty good. But Shatter generally tends to create a lot of high damage battleship games, in my opinion. It's a very good map for BBs because lots of people don't know how to play it positionally. Lots of games are late game oriented because the two sides are so disconnected that even if one loses, if you win on the other side like we did, there's still gonna be a mid or late game. Like you can't really stomp that fast. XP wise, I had 3.7k. Expected that it's not more, even though I had plane kills too. It's like just a lot of BB damage I did. Evo though, as you can see here, also has 2.7k base XP. Could play the middle, and that's like the synergy. It would have all changed if the carrier focuses me or they have a DD on my flank that could permatorp. All of this wouldn't be possible, and we probably lose. But because you realize so fast that there is no destroyer and you can go super deep into the flank and also immediately push, allows for Evo to play the game, and I obviously get more value too. Yeah. Here we have just the detailed damage. It's pretty obvious. You get like 375k. You most likely fapped on some BBs. It's 140 out of the Hanover. The Marlboro was like clean citadels, essentially. Like you died to 2 salvos. Marlboros are really known for doing it, like going flat broadside. Yeah, like they think it's a BB. Maybe they played too much German battleship and don't realize that thing actually has like a cruiser citadel. It also has very low armor on it. By the way, can we see the damage? Yeah, you can see here, like it's 46 out of fires on the Hanover, but mostly AP focus. But yeah, you can switch to HE in that ship for sure. It's definitely not bad. I had games with 380k damage or so where I just arsonisted 2 Yamatos on my own. That's like the strength, because Montana has 38 tech inside like Ohio, so if you play for example even against 32mm overmatch BBs, they don't tend to dumpster you that hard on range because they don't overmatch your entire ship like against Conqueror, so you can hold ground while shitting HE into them, and you obviously pen still, as I said, like even if it's USN HE pen, you still pen every BB deck. This is the spec I'm running. As I said, it's like Halsey. Very standard. The only things you could switch here is probably you could either drop the turret traverse and preemptive maintenance and go for the heal skill, or you drop brisk and the preemptive maintenance and go for the heal skill. I mean the heal skill that is like improved repair party readiness. It's the second skill from the right and the third line. Don't spec survivability expert, I think it is. That thing is just toxically useless as a 3-pointer. It gives you like 7 or 8 seconds off the Monty. If you want some really tanky Monty gameplay, then you should probably get the I think it's the Legimod, and you go through Legimod and maybe the module. Like instead of acceleration mod, you maybe take the module there. Even though I'm not a big fan of that either. I think that module is also pretty much a waste, because acceleration mod gives you so much more mobility in a BB. In any case, very box standard stuff. Um, Generally, why I'm against the fire skill or even the heal repair party readiness skill is you can just work around it. Like those are skills you can work around with your positioning, while stuff like concealment or fire prevention, if you don't have that, you're giving a lot of power to the enemy. You don't have a lot of influence anymore on certain things. So yeah, it's like I'd rather I'd rather have the mandatory skills, so I keep essentially the power of how I die in my own hands. And yeah, the 4-point heal skill, the what is it? It was superintendent before. Now it only gives heal, no reload boost or something. That is obviously mandatory. It's also really strong because it gives you 10% on the heal strength, and Monty has a really strong heal, so it's a very like numerically it's a very big increase on the HP you can recover. On the modules, it's very obvious. You take the range for a bit better dispersion in the third slot. The American BBs don't get the dispersion one there. They get the dispersion in the sixth slot, and that module is far superior on every American BB than the reload mod, for sure. You should always take 14% dispersion. It's just incredible. Like there's not even any argument. I tried the reload on some ships like Georgia, because it has like battlecruiser dispersion. It's not worth it. The 14% is just it's just crazy. I mean, if you think about what was it, Deadeye being in the game and the 10 and everyone was fapping to the 10% dispersion buff, that was already crazy. Then yeah, you can probably imagine what 14% does. In any case, like you could theoretically run the repair party coal module in the first slot. I think that is essentially it's just a straight upgrade, but only on USN BBs because they have a 20-second repair party, 25-second repair party. So the percentage-based duration increase on it is super strong. I don't really care too much. Like I wouldn't want to maximize that much value that I actually get that coal module, but that coal module is essentially just built for USN BBs in my opinion. Like that's the only ship where it really makes sense. Yeah, that's essentially it. Like obviously concealment, prop mod, acceleration mod, whatever you want to call it, is mandatory. Um, the entire fire damage is being reduced by fire prevention already. That's like the main thing you take, and the fire flag, and then the fire damage is already cut down so far that you can go on with your day. You most likely won't burn down if you play it correctly. If you still burn down too much, then you shouldn't look towards changing the specs. You should actually look towards just understanding the game more in depth, positioning more in depth, and working on your own skill, because that spec you just saw on Captain and modules is most likely what most super unicoms or unicoms run on battleships. If you saw it in COTS, it's pretty much very little difference to any other BB spec. Yeah, so that's it. Montana for you boys, and maybe there's going to be another BB replay soon. I don't know. I think the game was pretty nice to watch. It was pretty close. It was a lot about positioning, and generally just showed that even if you don't have 30mm or 32mm overmatch, these battleships are still insanely strong, and they have their upsides too. In any case, have a nice week and see you for the next video or on stream.